All right, hello. Welcome to the Independent Creatives Pod. Oops. Welcome to the Independent Creatives Podcast. This is Wes. I'm a comic book artist and illustrator, and today I have Jack Harris with me today. Jack, can you give us a brief introduction?
Yeah, I can, Wes, and thanks for having me, man. Yeah, I'm Jack Harris, the writer, creator of the explosive action comic book Terminus Veil. I've been producing this book for the last 3 years. We recently had a Kickstarter. It went really well. And yeah, man, Terminus Veil is basically an action mystery book. It's about a private security team that gets attacked while they're transporting a new invention. Guys come down to helicopters, start shooting at them. They're trying to figure out what's going on, leads into a bigger conspiracy. Um, and this kind of just a real deal passion project for me. I've been working on it, producing it. I would say the last 3 years, but I've been writing the story for the since 2009. So um, always been a comics fan. uh, since I was a little kid, reading Image and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Grifter, Wildcats, big part of my childhood. So I've
Mhm.
always kind of loved the real explosive, real detailed artwork. And that's what I've tried to bring to Terminus Veil.
Yeah, man. When I look at I'm sharing it. I'm sharing on the screen right now the your website. And I mean, to me, like whenever I see this cover, it's got that awesome like GI Joe kind of
Yeah,
vibe to it. I can see the other influences, the X-Men influences, Wildcats. It feels really fun. It feels like you've put together something that like you've put a lot of thought into, you
mm,
know. If you've been writing it for what you said since 2008, 2009,
yeah,
so it was mostly like the stuff that you liked, and then you were just kind of riffing off of that, and it just kind of stuck with you. Is that
yeah,
kind of
man.
how it came
That-
together?
yeah. For me, at the time, I was doing something totally different than comics. Was actually rapping. Um,
Okay.
it was one of the things that I just love to do, and I would always rap about like superhero lines and stuff like that. And so I was like, man, I've always wanted to kind of do a comic. Is what I when I was a kid, what I thought I would do. And
Hmm.
so I just started writing a story, man. I came up with the character from Terminus Vale, Dash, and I just started writing a story around that. As years went on, it was like, oh, world building here. I'm introducing another character there, thinking about this. And so by the time 2020 hit, um, and the whole COVID deal brought me in the house and it really made me reevaluate where I was at in life. I was just like, hey, like I've got this story. I've been just, I've got tons of ideas on and tons of things I've written around. Let me see if I can actually
Hmm.
get this into a book.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how it seems like that was a huge turning point for a lot of people, right? It's like
Yeah.
we had this huge event happen, and for a lot of us, we just doubled down on what we wanted to do and just went for it. That's something that I've heard from other people as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I came across your stuff on Instagram, and I was looking through your stuff, and then I saw that you were a part of Comics Launch, the Tyler's project,
Yes.
which I guess I can go on to. He has a review on here, right? Um,
Yeah, I believe he does
I-
my Kickstarter. Yeah.
on your Kickstarter. Okay, I don't see a link to the Kickstarter on here.
Uh,
Um, but how did
yeah.
you come across Tyler's like comic launch program? And was that kind of like the missing link for you? Like you had written this story and you had this idea, but then you were like, okay, how am I gonna actually put this together in a in a way that like actually makes sense? And then I'm guessing that was kind of like the roadmap for you.
Somewhat. I kind of found out. I found out about him a little bit in the middle of while I was producing Terminus Veil, and so when I first started producing the book in 2020, 2021, um, I I knew that I wanted to do a volume one, like a big kind of graphic novel style field book, right? I knew I was going to do single issues for it. And so, I just started working on issue one, and basically those four issues would make a volume one, just because of all the I had done some research on just sales and data and stuff like that, and people were just saying, hey, graphic novels is kind of the way to sell things, as far as kind of getting the most bang for your buck, essentially. And so I knew I wanted to bring it all together as a collection. Um, and so I got issue one done, and I started, selling at just local events and cons, and kind of just, finding out bits and pieces here in the market. And so, probably in the middle of issue two, while it was being worked on, I started looking and just thinking to myself, like, hey, like I've got to find somebody who already does this, that really, like, I need to find a resource, you know what I mean? And so I kind of looked up and found out about Tyler's program. I started listening to just before I signed up, I just started listening to a couple of the podcasts he already had. And there was a lot to glean from that. I kind of went through the first little, I think it's like a master class, like an introductory master class type of deal, before you fully sign up, or right when you sign up. And I kind of went through that. And once I went through that, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm starting to get how people do it. And it really uh, pointed me towards Kickstarter. I had seen people do comic books on Kickstarter, but I'd never really thought about it like that, as a real medium for launching books. Um, and yeah, I signed up for his program, and went through a few courses on it, and I definitely say it's been, huge to the success of the Kickstarter.
So you did like 15,000 on your first Kickstarter, right? You
Yeah,
you were aiming for full, and y'all did 15,
yeah,
which is pretty. I mean, that's pretty awesome, especially for like a first book of a comic. I
yeah.
don't know. Is that rare? Is that considered to be rare?
I don't know either. I mean, I think there are definitely some things about it that you don't typically see. Like a 15,000 one, I think just a really solid, really good launch for a comic book in general. I mean, obviously you can see people who getting 100,000, 200,000. You could be Keanu Reeves and you drop 1 million on somebody's head.
Yeah,
Right. But no, I mean, so I like to think we did good. And based off what I kind of seen, and talking to people who are in Comics Launch, I think they were impressed by it, as well. People who are kind of long time members of the program, and so yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know how rare it is though. I just don't know enough of the data.
So, what do you attribute that kind of turnout for your book? Like, what do you attribute to? Was there like a viral moment that you were able to capitalize on, or was it
Oh
like
man.
was there a particular platform that you really aimed at that helped you get in front of people?
Yeah, I don't. I think it's a combination of a few things. One, and this is what I really got from Tyler's program, which was an email list. And I had been, you know, a year, maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years before the launch. I had been building my email list, and essentially emailing people. I would say once every 3 weeks. I know people do it usually once every 2 weeks. I'm a little slower than that on average, but yeah, I was emailing people, and just I would go to cons, go to local art events, and have literally a QR code to sign up for my email list, and a sheet of paper where people could just write it in if they wanted to. And I think by the time I got to the Kickstarter, I was around 400 people on my email list. Um,
Okay.
and the good thing about Kickstarter is it allows you to create links that essentially you can append extra stuff so how the traffic that got to your page got there. And I was able to do that with mine, and I could see that the email list definitely, especially for day one, um, really produced, and so that was a big part of it. Um, I think generally just relationships with people that I knew, as people in my family, people I worked with, who just I think wanted to see me succeed. And they are excited about what they had seen so far from the book, and so they really came out the first day. Um, I make a lot of relationships on Instagram that I think that helped because I had like I said, the first day. I just asked, a lot of people I was cool with on Instagram, hey, could you just share this program to your story? Share this, the Kickstarter basically on your story. And they had over 100 shares the first day, which was really good. Um, Obviously, there's some stuff like we did do. I did do ads. I worked with influencers too. Some of that is hard to track on how much that contributed, but I do think that it took um a lot of just promoting to really get it pushed on the first day because the first day is just so important to Kickstarter, and its algorithm the way it works, and so yeah, man, that's really it's a combination of things. I wish I could say it was just hey, there's this one thing. If I told anybody one thing you definitely need to do that is free, essentially, is getting people on your email list. All right, it's going to show, it's going to work, and everybody I've talked to will tell you that has told me it works for them. That it's kind of the backbone of it all. But I do think that
Mhm.
you've got to have good relationships too, and you know, other stuff going on, PR, stuff like that.
Yeah, networking yourself within like the community and like
Yeah,
showing you're cool and that sort of thing.
yeah.
So is the reason why, and I know Tyler gets into this in his comics program, but I'm assuming that the reason why the first day is so important on Kickstarter is because that's basically going to set you in the algorithm as far as like how searchable you are. Is that kind of the
Oh
idea?
yeah, that's it. Yeah, if you kind of when you launch on Kickstarter, it'll tell you where every sale essentially comes from Kickstarter, whether that was directly from your page and a link that someone used to get to your page, or if that was from their front page or their searched page or their comics category page. And you
Mhm.
get to see if you ever go to their front page, um, it'll show you, hey, these are the new comics that are just released, right? They'll say something like fresh favorites, and there's a few different little categories they have. Um, but the most prominent thing is if you're selling a lot, you'll see the people who are selling a lot get those spots, right? And
Mhm.
they get those spots a lot longer. And so yeah, if you can, the longer you can be on one of those spots, it's definitely going to contribute a good bit to it.
It also helps that your stuff, the artists that you brought on are really good. I mean,
Yeah,
let me see
yeah.
if I can reshare the let me find the Kickstarter real quick. Yeah, I mean, you've got a really strong team behind you. Um, let's see. Present.
See if I can send it to you.
Yeah, so looking at the Kickstarter page,
Oh yeah, yeah. There we go.
yeah. Is this a trailer right here?
It's me talking for essentially just kind
Okay.
of telling about it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, 15,000. But like the amount of work it is
Excuse me.
that you guys put into this is it's pretty phenomenal, man. I mean, I gotta say, like, it's not a surprise to me that like this would make so much money because it looks on the level of like a Marvel comic,
Oh,
you know?
thanks.
It looks on the level of like yeah, like on the level of a Marvel comic or something along those lines. Like you clearly got the right people to work with.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, these are just awesome. I like how you mix the style up too. Like I like this more cartoonish vibe with this one.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing
Yeah,
this was
man.
a variant cover.
Yeah. Yeah. They're the main one is kind of that orange, that dark orange cover with all of them on it.
Hmm.
But yeah, everything else are variants. And I want to, that's something I learned from Comics Launch too. Was how you're always thinking about how you can, the business side of it. How can you sell more, right? If you only have one book, then it becomes, all right, they bought your one book. Do they have any other options? But if you have variant covers and stuff like that, and obviously, all the big companies do them right. And so it was kind of fun for me because it's like, a lot of times there are these artists that you see, I'm on Instagram all the time.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing these artists. I'm like, oh man, it'd be cool to work with you. Cool to work with you. But obviously, you can only work with a particular team when you're doing interior pages. Not like you're trying to have a ton of different people working. Yeah, you can, but
Right.
you're trying to, So variant covers is kind of just a cool way to work with somebody who, may not even match the traditional style you're looking for, or the normal style you're looking for, I should say, and do something fun, man. Um, Especially when it's like some people like Marcus Williams was really cool because he's local to Atlanta, so it's cool to have somebody from Atlanta, um, also contribute to the book. And um, obviously, there are people who like the Zong Bros, who did it, who did one of the variant covers there.
Hmm.
Really big on Kickstarter. Done a few. I think it's now. I think they're working on a Zombie Tramp cover, but they do a lot of covers for Kickstarter creators, and so it was cool to get them on there because it's kind of like, you're setting yourself up into the community even more.
Hmm.
Yeah, man, but it's just a fun thing, but then it also, again, it has a good business outcome too. If you can really get some good artists, and like you said, it helps to make your page look a little more professional, a little more um committed, right? That you're committed to making it the best. So
Yeah, I guess it also helps with getting the word out too, because the artist is going to be, if you get an artist who's got a decent audience, then obviously they're going to help spread the word about your book because they want people to see the awesome
yeah,
cover they did.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. How so how has this changed your life, man? I mean, to like go from this was just like an idea it is that you had. Is this like basically a full-time thing now? Like this is what you do? You do Terminus Veil?
It's not a full time thing. I'm still got a 9 to 5. I'm a software engineer in my
Okay.
the majority of the day, but no, it's definitely my middle of the night up till 1, 2 in the morning job that I'm
Huh.
doing. I would say from 8 p.m., 9 p.m. to 1. I end up doing that a good bit of the week sometimes, and it's changed my life though, man. And I would say from a standpoint of when in 2020, I was really down as far as, I tired of my job, tired of kind of what had been going on.
Mhm.
Loved my
Yeah.
family and all that, but man, I just didn't have any kind of fulfillment from from stuff I was doing, and so like this is kind of, filled that void and overflowed it, man. So um, it's something I love doing. I've got, plans to introduce 2 new books in the next 6 to 8 months. So um, yeah, man, it's what I want to be. I'm pushing for it to be the eventually the 9 to 5 and be my full time job. But Until then, I'm gonna just enjoy it the way it is, and I'm gonna keep enjoying it.
So if it was a 9 to 5 job, would that mean that you would be working almost like a publishing house in a sense? Like you would be publishing more than just Terminus Veil? I'm guessing
Yes.
they would all be your stories.
No, I think that there's gonna be a time where, and I kind of take it a day at a time on that, but my general feel right at this moment is that we're gonna have, I have a company, Clash Digital, and that's what, it's basically what Terminus Veil is under. And I plan on
Mhm.
introducing a new book in the next 6 months. That'll be under it as well. And that's a story written by me. But I also plan on trying to pitch a couple stories in the next year to other publishers and kind of see where that lands. But I would like to think that, I don't know, maybe if I really get good at publishing books,
Mhm.
that within 2 years I'd be probably open to submissions and listening to other people's books, just kind of being the publisher role and maybe helping on things here and there on the creative side, but not really being the driving force.
Yeah, I imagine if you can get the Kickstarter game down pat, then all it's really is like delegation, right? Like you have a bunch of story ideas about things, you can write them, and then you've got like this crew that you can depend on. You can pass them that story, and then you've got the Terminus Veil thing going. I think that's the really cool thing about writing your own stuff
Yeah.
that you see in the comic industry is like obviously you have to have good ideas and you have to have like an understanding of story, but
Yeah.
it doesn't take anywhere near as long to like get it down on a piece of paper as it does to like draw and paint everything because
Yes.
the art, I mean, like they look like paintings,
Yeah.
like the stuff that the guys did for your book, like some of them look like paintings,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a few artists that are traditional, right? And they're really pencils and inks. And um,
Hmm.
one of the colorists for issue one is essentially a painter, and not
Hmm.
not a digital artist at all. And then now the guys I work with now, Delio and Frank, they're more digital. But yeah, man, it's a whole process, right? And so it's a lot of time and effort into it. You want to make sure those ideas are as good as they can be before you get them in somebody's hands. So yeah,
What do you prefer? Do you prefer like American comics or you prefer like manga?
I'm an American comic guy through and through. I would say I read manga here and there. Like I just got done reading Spy Family. Um, but overall, I'm American. I love I love anime a good bit. Like deeply in love with Ghost in the Shell, Full Metal
Yeah.
Alchemist, stuff like that. I watch a ton of man, what is it, Demon Slayer now. And so I love to have that influence our comics,
Mhm.
and that part of being influenced. But I generally, the whole kind of just seeing something in a smaller format in black and white is not really what I prefer. I prefer a fully colored, kind of 10 by 6, 10 by 7 um type of setup. So
Yeah. It's interesting. Ever since I moved to Thailand, like I've kind of gone on a rampage and bought like a bunch of manga. And it's, there's kind of a give and take either way, because on the one hand, like when you buy a manga, it's generally cheaper
yeah,
and it's also like it's got the full story. Like you were saying, like the graphic novel is kind of where it's at, right? And so that seems to be like the thing that they do in Asia, where it's like you're basically just buying the full on novel that has the full arc. But I do have to say, like when I find like old X-Men comics or something like that, there is that kind of I don't know, I guess the nostalgia of it, of seeing something in color, seeing it fully illustrated.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I guess it's kind of like you have to pick what you want. You want high quality, but not as many pages it is that you can give unless you want to just put together one whole book
Yeah.
or the other way around, you know?
Yeah, and it for me, it's always been. That's why I kind of go back to the. I knew I was going to do graphic. Graphic novels are kind of where they're at. Like I, I don't. we sell single issues. You know, but I don't get a ton of them printed. Because I don't really want to push single issues because I think there are generally people are becoming more like, hey, you want to see a complete arc, you want to get um, a more meaty story, right? Than just, hey, I gotta get a single issue and then I have to wait,
Hmm.
until a month or two or whatever till the next issue is out. Um, so I've kind of always been on that side, but um, it it helps me from a production standpoint to chop them up in issues because it makes it a little easier to complete than to be on the, hey, we're going to do 125 pages, but we're just going to do
Yeah.
that, and then we're going to come out of that whole 8 months from
Uh-huh.
now and have something fully done. Like it's a lot to that. But that's kind of why I do like what you see in manga with that. Like you said, where you're getting a
Mhm.
full complete arc, you're getting something that is going to take you longer than 20 minutes to fully finish. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah. Well, I
so
guess I guess to their credit, they are doing them as like individual issues, right? Because
yes, they are.
they still get them in like shonen and that sort of thing, and then
Yeah,
they just compile them together in a book. But I don't think I've ever seen like floppies of like any kind of manga, you know.
yeah,
If it is, it exists like in shonen or something like
right.
that, you know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
yeah, so that's a good point. Like if you have them broken down into issues, then it makes the production easier. People still have energy whenever like a product can actually go through a whole process, and at the end of it, not everybody's burnt out because you just did 120 pages like nonstop with no ending, you
right,
know?
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So you break them up into individual issues, and then do you kickstart the individual issues, or you put the individual issues up for sale?
I do put the individuals up for sale. I get them printed and I have them available on my website digitally, pretty much as soon as they're done. I didn't do my first Kickstarter was the volume one, so I didn't, I didn't do any for my single issues 1 through 4. And essentially, once
Okay.
4 was done, we immediately made the volume one. Um, but my next Kickstarter will be um, I don't ever think I'll just do single issues because I think, well, I might. I shouldn't say I won't, but um, I always try to have something a little bit extra, or I want to have something a little bit extra because I feel like a Kickstarter is such a production in itself. Like it's such a you got to prepare a whole month or two in advance, and then once you're in that 30-day stretch, you really got to be promoting and really it's just so much energy and time you have to dedicate to it. But the next Kickstarter we're gonna do will be an issue 5, and then it'll be a one shot um, of one of the particular characters' body from it, and that'll be 36 pages. Um, so both of them will come launched together essentially. So it won't be just like, hey, you get issue 5 and that's it. It's like, no, we've got um, 2 stories, issue 5, continuing to push um, what's been going on with the one shot, kind of going into some background about the Terminus Veil world, but just through the lens of Badia. And so that way it feels a little more, again, like I don't want to just give people just, hey, here's a 22 floppy and be done with it. Like give you a little something extra or a little something more to read. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts.
Okay. So do them as individual issues. You put them out there digitally. And then
Okay.
after you've put them out there digitally, once you have a full arc, then you kickstart the book. Do you find that like putting them out there individually as digital downloads that people can buy, does that get in the way of the graphic novel kickstarting, or does it help? Like do you
I don't.
find that like people that buy the individuals want the actual book as well?
It just depends, man. I don't have. I don't know if I've got enough data to say yes or no, or really speak on it. Because I've got some people who they'll order. You know, if I drop another issue, they're gonna order it online, and get the physical. And I got some people who will just get the digital. There's people who have bought physicals from me online and then proceeded to buy the volume one on Kickstarter when it dropped. So, which they really already had all, the first three issues. They didn't have to buy the
Mhm.
volume one, but they bought it. So it's hard to gauge on if anything is interfering or not. I generally, you know, eh, if you buy it one way or another, it really doesn't bother me either way, right? Like I don't have like I like to believe that we're gonna spend a good bit of marketing and focus on the Kickstarter because it's such a big way to get a huge a huge amount of cash in a very short amount of time, right? Um, but I just don't know if something's stopping someone else or not. I don't know if I'm big enough to even to even, to even talk about it quite yet. I just don't have enough data, I'd say.
Okay. So I guess we'll wrap it up with this. What is your what is your take on being a writer? Like what are your thoughts on what it takes to be somebody who creates your own world? Like what do you think separates people that are actually really good at it and have a perspective on it? And from what I can see, you seem to have that.
Yeah.
From
Oh, go sorry.
yeah, so, yeah, what is your take on that?
Yeah. I think one is what's your imagination like, right? I think that's the start of it. If you know, what what do you like to do as far as imagining things? Like for me, I can sit and have a dream about something. And that dream would be, obviously very incoherent and not make much sense. And then I sit for, a hour or two in bed, just trying to make it coherent. And so then I start adding these things like, what if this person in this did this? What if this person kind of one of the stories that I want to come out with later this year is started from a dream. It started from me dreaming of this guy being kind of killed by a witch. And
Hmm.
I just kind of adding on and on and on and on to it. And now it's this story about two gangsters. One of them is a shape-shifting demon, and their boss ends up dying because the shape-shifting demon kind of kills him, and they have to deal with the aftermath. Um, but it's that to me, I would say imagination. I think the next part is your detailing, right? Because I talk to people who I got this idea, and it's like ideas are good, stories are good, thoughts are good, but it's like, what are you gonna do to detail that into a page outline for a book, and then character biographies and profiles, and what does the world mean to you? What is the what's your underlying theme? Like, what are you trying to accomplish in this story? Right, Terminus Veil, kind of one of the themes for me is that I wanted to show. Like, so many times I think we see books, or you see the heroes, the superheroes who are kind of already really dominant and already really just great at things. So when they're fighting bad guys, it almost feels unfair to the bad guys sometimes.
Right.
um, right. And so I wanted to show, well, what happens when if you watched a hero from kind of the starting point where maybe they weren't that great and they weren't that good and they had to go through these to just get good, and then now you get to see them and kind of the journey of them growing through kind of action and mystery and science fiction. Um, so to me, it's I think it's imagination is definitely being in the details and loving what you do. I think if you love it, it's going to show in general. And I think it's not feeling um, uh, bound, right? Which I think sometimes we criticize. People can criticize writers who are writing, I don't know, Superman or Batman or X-Men or Avengers, all of these, 70, 80, almost 100-year-old um, franchises, right? And like they've got editors, they've got, multiple editors, they've got multiple, people in the room that are saying, nope, can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, you can't do that. And so I think something I don't experience, right? But just because it's just
Mm.
me. But and I think that maybe is helps me and helps other writers, I think, who are independent, because they can just write what they feel versus feeling like you're you know turning it into a day job. Like that's not what I want. I say I want it to be a 9 to 5, but not in the sense of what traditional 9 to 5 kind of means.
Totally.
Yeah,
Cool, man. Cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me, man.
yeah,
It's really inspiring for me to talk to other people that are doing their own thing. And so cool. And I hope that people that watch this get some inspiration as well. I'm
yeah,
going to include all the Terminus Veil and all of your links in the description box for anybody who wants to go and check out the comic. And I'm going to go ahead and end the recording and we'll chat for a few minutes after. So
yeah,
thanks, guys. Thank you so much for watching and
yeah,
take
yeah.
care.
Thanks.